Have you ever wondered what happens when you give aerospace engineers $20 billion and tell them to build something that'll make enemy pilots lose sleep at night? Well, we're about to find out. Trump just dropped a bombshell announcement that's got aviation nerds everywhere freaking out. Boeing is building the F-47, America's newest and most badass fighter jet. And trust us, this isn't just another plane with some fancy new cup holders. So, here's the scoop. President Trump recently made a huge announcement from the Oval Office that's sending shockwaves through the defense world. Boeing just landed a massive $20 billion contract to develop the F-47 fighter jet after beating out competitors like Lockheed Martin in what Trump called a rigorous and thorough competition between some of America's top aerospace companies. This is a big deal for a couple reasons. First, we're talking about America's first ever sixth-generation fighter jet. That's right, we're skipping ahead to the next level of air combat. Second, this is a major lifeline for Boeing, which has been dealing with some serious problems lately, from safety issues to financial troubles and worker strikes. Their stock jumped nearly 5% just on this news alone. When Trump says this is the most advanced, most capable, most lethal aircraft ever built, and that nothing in the world comes even close to it, he's not just throwing around typical Trump hyperbole. Based on what we know so far, the F-47 represents a massive leap forward in fighter jet technology. While a lot of the details remain classified, obviously, we do know the F-47 will feature some seriously advanced sensors and stealth capabilities. Air Force General David Ulvin has confirmed it'll be the first crewed sixth-generation fighter, emphasis on crewed, because drones and autonomous aircraft are increasingly becoming part of the air combat picture. What's really interesting is that this jet has apparently been flying in secret for about 5 years already. That's right. While we've all been going about our daily lives, test pilots have been pushing this thing to its limits somewhere in the Nevada desert. Classic America, right? Aviation experts have noticed something fascinating in the limited images released. The F-47 bears a striking resemblance to Boeing's YF-118G bird of prey technology demonstrator that flew secretly at Area 51 back in the 1990s. The new jet features a similar wing design with a high dihedral, that's the upward angle of the wings, and downward swept tips. This is actually pretty cool because it shows how these experimental X-planes from decades ago help shape the cutting-edge fighters of today. The bird of prey proved out concepts for advanced stealth, tailless design, and even visual stealth. Now those lessons are being applied to a frontline combat aircraft. So how does the F-47 stack up against what we've already got? According to General Ulvin, compared to the F-22 Raptor, currently America's top air superiority fighter, the F-47 will actually cost less while being more adaptable to future threats. Plus, the Air Force plans to have more F-47s in their inventory than the roughly 180 Raptors currently in service. The new jet will also have significantly longer range, more advanced stealth, be more sustainable, supportable, and have higher availability than our fifth-generation fighters. Translation: it'll go farther, be harder to detect, break down less often, and be easier to fix when it does. What's not to like? Trump dropped a few technical hints during the announcement, mentioning that the F-47's speed is top over 2, which is something that you don't hear very often. That suggests the jet can reach at least Mach 2, twice the speed of sound, or roughly 1,500 miles per hour. Fast, but actually not unprecedented for modern fighters. Where things get really interesting is in the aircraft's unique design features. From the released concept art, we can see a very broad, shovel-like nose that likely houses an enormous radar array. The fighter also appears to have canard foreplanes, small wing-like surfaces ahead of the main wings, which is an unusual choice for a stealth aircraft, but could provide exceptional maneuverability. The overall design seems to take inspiration from several experimental aircraft Boeing has worked on over the years, including not just the bird of prey, but also the X-45 unmanned combat air vehicle and the X-36 tailless fighter agility research aircraft. Why it's called the F-47. If you're a military aviation history buff, you might be thinking, wait, haven't we had an F-47 before? And you'd be right. The original F-47 was actually the P-47 Thunderbolt from World War II, which was redesignated F-47 in 1947 when the naming system changed. According to Air Force Chief of Staff General Ulvin, the F-47 designation was chosen deliberately to honor that legacy, as the P-47 made huge contributions to air superiority during World War II. It also pays tribute to 1947, the founding year of the US Air Force as a separate military branch. And yes, there's also a nod to Trump being the 47th President of the United States. This fighter isn't just about American air power, it's a statement to the world. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made that clear, saying the F-47 sends a very direct, clear message to our allies that we're not going anywhere, and to our enemies that we will be able to project power around the globe unimpeded for generations to come. What's particularly interesting is that, unlike the F-22 Raptor, which was never approved for export due to its sensitive technologies, Trump suggested that toned-down versions of the F-47 might be sold to certain allies. As he put it, we'd like to tone them down about 10%, which probably makes sense, because someday, maybe they're not our allies. Right? The F-47 isn't just a single aircraft, it's actually the centerpiece of a much broader initiative called Next Generation Air Dominance, NGAD. Think of it as a complete ecosystem for future air combat that includes the F-47 manned fighter jet, collaborative combat aircraft, CCA drones with high degrees of autonomy, new jet engines, weapons, and electronic warfare systems advanced networking that connects everything together. This represents a totally new approach to aerial warfare. Instead of sending in a squadron of identical fighters, future missions might involve a single F-47 leading a pack of different drones, each with specialized roles. The pilot becomes more of a battle manager, directing these unmanned wingmen while staying safely out of the highest threat areas. For Boeing, this contract couldn't have come at a better time. The company has been struggling with multiple crises in both its commercial and defense divisions. They've faced serious issues with the 737 MAX, had to shut down their FA-18 Super Hornet production line, and have been criticized by Trump himself over delays with the new Air Force One planes. This $20 billion development contract, and the hundreds of billions more that could follow for production, gives Boeing a new lease on life as a fighter jet manufacturer. The company has already made significant investments in its St. Louis facilities to prepare for sixth-generation fighter production, betting big on winning this contract. When will we see it in action? So when can we expect to see the F-47 actually joining the Air Force fleet? Trump has set an ambitious goal of having the jet enter production before the end of his term in January 2029. That's incredibly fast for a new aircraft program, especially one this complex. However, given that experimental versions have already been flying for years, and Trump mentioned that they've already built much of what has to be built in terms of production, it might actually be possible. The Air Force seems confident too, saying that the test work so far has resulted in a fighter that's very close to the production configuration. The F-47 represents a massive leap forward in American air power at a time when global competition in military technology is heating up. China and Russia are both working on their own next-generation fighters, and this announcement makes it clear that the US intends to maintain its edge in the skies. What's particularly fascinating is how much of this development has happened in secret. While the public's attention has been focused elsewhere, teams of engineers, test pilots, and military planners have been quietly revolutionizing aerial warfare. The F-47 is just the tip of the iceberg, the visible part of a massive transformation in how America projects power around the globe. As Air Force General Ulvin put it, the F-47 will be the most advanced, lethal, and adaptable fighter ever developed. designed to outpace, outmaneuver, and outmatch any adversary that dares to challenge our brave airmen. And based on what we've seen so far, that's not just talk. It's the future of air combat taking shape before our eyes. So next time you hear a sonic boom and look up to see nothing but an empty sky, just remember, it might not be empty after all. America's next fighter is watching, and it's unlike anything we've ever seen before.